Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ascension Keys Masterclass to understand your energy. Oop, there we go. Okay. Oh, we skipped a slide. There we go. Okay. Okay, so welcome. I'm super excited to have you here if you're joining us live or if you're watching in the future, watching the replay. The reason that I put this masterclass together today is because when I first started on my spiritual awakening journey, I really had the intention to just heal. I was going through a lot of heavy things like anxiety and depression. I had an eating disorder and body dysmorphia, but that's also because I had lived through a lot of trauma in childhood, much like a lot of empaths and light workers, and also traumatic things that happened to me in my young adult years as well. I was in an abusive relationship and was feeling very lost in life. And, why am I here? And the question that everybody has. Okay. And so me getting into spirituality, I was like, I just want to be happy. Like that was my main goal in life, is just to be in a place where I felt peace. And so, excuse me, I had to get something off my computer screen. So, I really want to be in a place of peace in my life and maybe find some direction and clarity. And I started getting into spirituality. That was a reason. And it was very overwhelming and very confusing because there's so much information. There are literally so many topics that you can learn about. And it's like, what do I focus on? And so I wish that somebody had sat me down and given me this class when I first started on my journey. And maybe you're not first starting on your journey, maybe you're real deep in it, right? And everybody can use refreshers and reminders. And one of the main points of this masterclass is to show you how all of these things that we're going to be talking about are interconnected with one another. That was the biggest piece for me. It was like I was trying to heal this over here and this over here and this over here. And it just felt like everything was very separate, and that was causing a lot of confusion. And as I got deeper into my journey, I said, oh my gosh, this actually works kind of on a linear scale that I can follow over and over and over again. I really should be teaching people how to follow this guide map because it'll make it a lot easier and save you a lot of time and energy and frustration. So the replay will be available, and I'll have that up a couple hours after the masterclass. We're going to take a couple bathroom breaks together because you're going to be drinking a lot of water while I'm talking. So you should be doing the same, though. It's very good for processing things. And then we're going to talk about this really amazing program that I have coming up at the end of the masterclass. I'm super excited about it. And we're also going to do a live Q&A for the participants that are here with me now. But if you're watching the replay in the future, always feel free to leave comments or questions underneath the video, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And this is a step-by-step guide that I have curated for my own life and for my clients, and has really helped them as well in their life. However, you need to use your intuition and discernment, okay? Some of these things are going to work for you, maybe some won't, and that's okay too. You have to find your own path, your own way of doing things, what works for you. This is a commonality that I have seen within myself and my clients that seems to work really well, and it's a system that you can implement very easily into your life. But maybe you don't want to learn about the Akashic records. Maybe you don't want to learn about soul contracts and karmic lessons and some of this esoteric woo information that we're going to be getting into. I will say, however, we're going to be talking about 4 main pillars that are beneficial for everyone, no matter if you are spiritual or not. Okay, that's central nervous system, inner child healing, subconscious mindset reprogramming, and talking about your self-concept. That is beneficial for everyone. Okay, and y'all feel free in the chat here, if you're live, you can talk to one another in the Zoom chat, but I am going to wait to look at everybody's questions towards the end. Okay, so if it is your first time meeting me, my name is Sage Gwendolyn. My mission is helping you connect to your multidimensionality so you can reach higher levels of consciousness and discover your most aligned timelines. I am a Reiki master, quantum healer, Akashic record reader, and cosmic shaman. I'm a mom to my 12-year-old son. He just turned 12. And I have 3 puppos. And I love EDM music. That's electronic dance music. I used to be very much in the festival scene, hoping to go to Electric Forest this year. If anybody knows what that is, it's a really fun festival. A few fun facts about me. I love going on adventures. As an Aquarian, I love newness. I love freshness. I love just doing all the new things in life, because variety is the spice of life. And so I love new restaurants, going to new stores, going to new locations, right? I love art, as you're going to see in this presentation here. I love curating other people's art. Okay, this is not art that I have created. This is me honoring different artists that I have found throughout my life. And I like making presentations really fun and magical and whimsical. Like, some of these things we're talking about are going to be kind of heavy topics. And so I wanted to give y'all some visual breaks and to also inspire your inner children, and so that they can have a really fun time as we're talking about everything. A lot of you know that on my Instagram, or if you don't know, you can go to my Instagram and check out my Insta stories. And I put tons of spiritual, woo, alien, galactic art up in there, so that you have a place during your day when the 3D paradigm is getting too heavy and you start feeling stressed and anxious. You can go over there and get a respark of your magic cup. I also just recently switched to decaf coffee. It's one of my most favorite things, because I used to be very highly addicted to caffeine, which was not good for my central nervous system, which we're going to be talking about. But it caused a lot of overstimulation, if you will. And so I have tricked my brain into decaf coffee. And so I still, get the enjoyment out of it. If you would like to follow me on my social medias, you can follow me at Soulharmonymagic on Instagram and TikTok. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to email me at soulharmonymagic@gmail.com. All right. So I figured everybody want to see what my puppies look like. This is Mr. Pugs here, the pug. And this is Daisy, my little old lady beagle. And then we have Molly, my little chihuahua over here, the cuties. Okay. So this is what I like to call the Ascension process, or the Ascension keys. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you can see here, it kind of looks like a chakra system. We start at our root chakra at the bottom and work all the way up to our crown chakra. So where we have to begin in our life journey, okay, even outside of the ascension process or your spiritual awakening journey, is we need to have the basic life necessities before we start moving on to more esoteric concepts, if you will. Okay, so physiological needs down here at the bottom correlate with your root chakra. These are things like air. Okay, you just simply breathing, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing. Okay, then we can move up the ladder to safety needs. So this is where we start feeling safe and secure in our reality through things like employment, resources. Like, this is like I need heat and air conditioning. And your health, and property is more like including like your car to help you get around, like having your own apartment or your own home or things of that nature. Then we move up to love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, and your sense of connection to others. Then we move up to esteem or self-concept. This is how you view yourself, your strength, your freedom, your willpower, your determination. Then we move up to self-actualization, your desire to become the most that one can be. And so this is where you really start making shifts in your reality, because you are identifying as a different version of yourself, a higher version of yourself. So your basic human needs work in this ladder system. Okay, this is what we call an emotional frequency chart. Oh, hold on. Okay, an emotional frequency chart. So you can see this also works like the chakra system. So down here in our root chakra at the bottom, this is where we house a lot of our negative feelings and emotions. And when I say negative feelings and emotions, when I first got into spirituality, there was this kind of like stigma around not feeling good and being low vibe. It's totally okay that you feel angry and sad and upset and frustrated and shameful and guilty. Like those are regular human feelings. Okay. There's nothing wrong with feeling those. It's when we start to stay in them for a long perpetual state and not really discovering why we're feeling that way, that's where people get stuck. But everybody feels these things, and it's totally okay. When you start to love and accept that, hey, I'm a human being and however I feel is however I feel, but maybe I can, do some things to shift my frequency, great. But just know it's okay to feel however you feel. Okay? So when we are housing a lot of these quote unquote lower vibrational frequencies in our body, they take energy from us. Shame, guilt down here at the bottom, move up to grief, fear, anger, okay, or pride, not pride in a great way, like you're being too prideful, if you will. They take energy from you. That's also why we want to learn how to shift. So once we start clearing out these heavy ones out of the bottom of our chakras, then we can start moving up the ladder frequency-wise here into neutrality, acceptance, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. Okay, so the Ascension keys is a ladder system that I have curated here, and I didn't put this together necessarily. This is just how life is put together. I just put them in this order to make it easier for everybody to understand. Okay, so down here at the bottom, that is where we would start kind of with our root chakra. So we want to start working on our central nervous system and regulating it, working our way up to subconscious mindset reprogramming, chakra balancing, inner child healing, self-concept, quantum manifestation, Akashic records, soul contracts, karmic lessons, and connecting to different timeline versions of yourself. And we're going to go through each one of these so you can understand why they're all connected to one another and why we need to do them in this order. Okay. So you're going to be seeing this graphic a lot. We're going to come back to this just to keep us a remembrance of this ladder system here. But we're going to start with our central nervous system down here at your root chakra. Okay, these are signs of a dysregulated nervous system. This is if you are living in perpetual states of fight or flight, catastrophizing, overwhelm, anxiety. That is signs of a dysregulated nervous system. We feel overwhelmed, like we never have enough time. We're snappy, irritable, overstimulated. You can experience chronic pain. I know that when I am overwhelmed and I feel like I have too much going on, my back completely locks up. And that's a good indicator for me. I need to go chill the F out. Okay. You get sick very easily. If you have an overactive CNS, it takes a toll on your immune system, and that's why it's very easy for you to get sick. You can experience insomnia, daytime fatigue, you're just tired all the time, attention and concentration issues or memory issues, overeating, undereating. You can experience things hormonally, gut and skin issues, and reading others' emotional states. Okay, this is something I teach with inner child healing that we'll talk about a little bit more. But if you have experienced a lot of trauma in childhood, you become a very hypersensitive person. Empaths, everybody has empathy within them. You either choose to use it or you choose to don't. Okay, like with narcissists. But a hypersensitive person is often born out of traumatic experiences and you have PTSD in your body. And so people can be seen as very scary. And if you have evidence-based reasons for your subconscious to believe that because people have hurt you over and over and over again, whether that's parents, teachers, guardians, or relationships, your inner children, again, will start to see people as really scary. And so you start to frequency read people. This is where we have to learn how to hold very good empathic and energetic boundaries. This is why people experience a lot of social anxiety. because you're walking into public spaces and you're receiving channels, your antennas are so open because you are looking for all the scary people in the room. Not necessarily people that are going to physically hurt you, maybe, right? But more so energetically hurt you. That's like being very angry towards you, or having to look out if they're going to yell at you, or people that have just really chaotic auric fields. It's better to know who that is in the room than not. It's a safety trauma response, but it's not one that really serves us, because you're not a child anymore. You're an adult and you can, you know, for the most part, take care of yourself. And we don't need to be looking for all of these negative vibrations in the room, but it's just a default measure that happens to a lot of us. I know it was for me for a long time as well. I had a major social anxiety because I didn't realize that I was such a sensitive person and a channeler. And so I was just reading every single person that came across, and it overwhelmed my central nervous system and overstimulated me. And I know a lot of my clients also deal with this. Also, because nobody ever taught you how to process your emotions. So you are interpreting all these people that you're coming in contact with as your trauma, your PTSD. If they have chaotic, angry, sad, frustrated, lost energy that's ruminating in their auric field, y'all come in contact with one another and you're reading them and interpreting it as your own. I had a lot of anxiety and depression for most of my life, and I didn't realize that because I was picking up on other people's anxiety and depression. And I was, what was the word I'm looking for? Interpreting that through my own central nervous system, thinking that it was mine when it wasn't. Now, I still had some things that I need to work on, obviously, within myself, but I was almost doing double the amount of shadow work because, you know, you can call it psychic, you can call it hypersensitive, you can call it empathic, whatever you want to call it. But if you are not holding boundaries, not boundaries as in the fact of people valuing your time and energy and respecting you, those are interpersonal boundaries. Empathic boundaries are not being sad because somebody else is being sad, okay, or not getting angry just because somebody else is angry in the room. Sometimes it's empaths and lightworkers default to try and regulate other people's stuff that they have going on to keep yourself safe. Maybe you had to do that for your parents or your guardians, and so it just becomes a behavioral pattern that keeps circulating. That's why I always say this is the key fundamental brick, okay, for every empath and light worker, is to figure out empathic and energetic boundaries so you're not taking on other people's stuff. Because 9 times out of 10, if you have a dysregulated nervous system, it usually tracks back to taking on other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And so we want to make sure we put up good shields for that. Okay. How does it get dysregulated? There are many different ways, okay? So traumatic events, PTSD, things that happen to you, you know, in childhood or as you're growing up as a young adult, never taught how to process your emotions. So you're just holding on to a lot of fear and anger and sadness and frustration, those feelings of loneliness or shame and guilt, and we're not actually processing them through. So your central nervous system is getting agitated. Environmental, this can be noises around you, like if you live in a really busy city or not a safe space in your city, not a great neighborhood. Living with your parents. Okay, I've had some clients that are trying to heal on their spiritual journey, and if you are living with the people who traumatized you, it can be very difficult to do that sometimes, because our central nervous system holds on to memories. It holds on to, you know, experiences. And so when you are around people who have done things to you, your body's like, oh, I remember this, and then tries to handle it in the same way. So just to be mindful, if that is the experience that you're having, kind of give yourself grace and compassion and say, hey, I'm doing the best that I can in this circumstance, and being around people who, you know, may have been kind of difficult to live with. Just give yourself compassion while you're healing, okay? Different relationships, codependency, being in romantic partnerships with narcissists or with friends. Chaotic work environments. If you have a very stressful job, they can be genetic and hereditary disposition as well. Like some people just are born with more activated central nervous systems, but it is something that you can learn to regulate and heal. Watching fear-based programming. So this could be like scary movies. Empaths and light workers a lot of times get very triggered watching scary things because you feel it physically in your body. It activates your fear response, and it can be very intense. So we need to be mindful of the things that we're watching as well, or listening to. It can also be like heavy metal. Sometimes some heavy metal is like people's jam. It's not mine, but that can be activating as well. Watching the news. The news has a lot of fear propaganda that could be activating. Not holding strong energetic boundaries like we talked about, and masking. Masking takes a lot of energy. And if you're newer to the term masking, that is you putting on kind of a persona, a front of a version of yourself that you feel like will be more palatable for people around you, particularly family members or people that are like your coworkers or your boss, people that aren't super close to you, because it is a safety trauma response. It's like, oh, I can't let anybody know who the real me is because either I'll be persecuted or I won't be accepted or I'll be talked down to, or, even violence. Some people, mask because it is a life and death situation, right? Or could potentially become one. And that's where we have to figure out how to get in better life situations. But it takes a lot of energy to put up those fronts. And for somebody who masked for the majority of my life, that was a long process healing, but it's so much better on the other side, where now I can just be authentically weirdo me and have a lot more energy back in my life. Okay, this is benefits of a chillaxed nervous system. So this is when we learn how to ground and how to regulate. We feel safe and secure within ourselves. We gravitate towards healthy relationships. You can hear your intuition more clearly, make better decisions, feel capable of achieving your dreams because you feel grounded in your reality and your relationships. Motivation to take action steps towards your goals. You feel more free, able to express yourself, tap into new income streams, and think higher level thoughts. Okay, now when I say tap into new income streams, money is a big subject with people. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but I have made so much more money in my life when I had a regulated central nervous system, because there are so many times that money has been weaponized against us. So there's a lot of religious programming with money saying, money's the root of all evil, or you have to wait till you're heaven, or you have to wait till you get to heaven to receive your riches. Rich people are evil, all these different things. And so even though you consciously as an adult want more money in your life, your central nervous system might be saying otherwise. It's saying money is scary. Money is what causes us anxiety when we think about our bills or we think about our future, and your body's like, please get out away from me. It does not feel good. All it does is create anxiety and chaos in our life. And so that's where you have to come in and do a reprogramming around your thoughts about money, but also heal your central nervous system with money. You have to make money feel good. You have to make it feel fun. You have to make it feel whimsical, like it's available to you. And the first step in that is you just feeling more safe and secure in your reality by regulating your central nervous system. And speaking of thinking higher level thoughts, we are now going to move up our ladder here to subconscious mindset reprogramming. And this is connected to our root chakra and our sacral chakra. So what is our subconscious mind? This is our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs all intertwined with one another that influence our behavior. It is primarily formed during infancy to 7 years old. This is when our consciousness is the most open to suggestion in our formative years. So this is where your parents and guardians, your teachers, your peers in kindergarten and school, social media, religion, culture, the government, news, and trauma are all teaching you how reality works and what is possible for you in your life. And that is based off of things that they are aware of in their own life. And so you are a baby is born a blank slate. Okay. It's not born with self-limiting beliefs. It's not born with trauma. There's something to be said about generational trauma being passed down through like hereditary lines, but for the most part, baby's just a blank slate. Every single thing that you learn is picked up from somebody else who learned it from somebody else. Okay. And sometimes those things are great, and sometimes they're not. Okay. Sometimes they are limiting beliefs, trauma projections, narrative stories, like all these things that are not serving us. Just because that's, you know, what's been regurgitated down the lines of communication over and over and over again. It's almost like playing the game telephone. Like this person over here is telling me something through the can, and I'm like kind of hearing what they're saying a little bit, and then I'm passing it off to somebody else, kind of what they're saying. So this is where we have to come in and install new programming. Okay, it works through repetition. So the more times that you hear something, the more likely that you are going to believe it. That is how affirmations work when you are trying to reprogram. You hear it over and over and over and over again, and eventually your brain goes, oh, okay, maybe this is true for my reality. It's also based off of the collective experience. So we come together to decide certain things. Like, let's talk about money. Money is, you know, the dollars and the change. That's something that we collectively decided to have as an experience of trade. Or holidays. Holidays are just made up things. Okay. Time is also a made up thing. It's something that we use to quantify different units of measure, but societal norms, right? What we decide is quote unquote right and wrong. These are all made up things by a group of people who decided that it should be that way. And so if you are a young child hearing these things of collective experiences, you're going to say like, oh, this is what everybody does. So this is what I need to do too. Kind of like how people are breaking away from the American dream of, okay, I need to grow up and go to college and get married and have kids and do this very linear way of living. A lot of people are saying, oh, I don't have to do that. No, you are in charge of your reality. You get to decide what your experience is, but we have to learn how to break away from those collective narratives telling us that everything has to be a certain way. Our subconscious controls 95% of our actions. This is the stuff that is way back. Okay. These are the things that you're not actually consciously thinking of. These are like programs, like you think of like a computer, things that have been installed that are just constantly running in the background. Kind of like breathing almost. Like you don't have to think about that. It's just happening. Your subconscious mind works the same way. And it does that as a safety response. Your subconscious mind wants to keep you in comfortability. It wants to keep you in norms because that's what everybody's doing. Okay, so obviously that's the best option. But just because everybody's doing something does not mean that it is the most optimal way to do it or people should be doing it. We get influence from authoritative figures. So if you're a small child and you have, you know, parents and teachers and guardians that are telling you things, you're kind of looking at them and saying, oh, well, you know, they're so much older than me. Obviously, they have stable lives. Maybe I should listen to them. And especially with the rhetoric of like children should like not speak and just listen, right? And not have opinions and not, you know, bump back on the things that we're saying. A school system is kind of set up the same way too. We won't go on like a long tangent about that. And the school system is like, hey, everybody needs to learn the same stuff and they need to learn it the exact same way and with this very specific narrative. But you're more likely to be influenced by an authoritative figure. Fear is also another way to program people's subconscious. It activates your central nervous system. And when your central nervous system is activated and you're in fight or flight, it's very easy to get programmed. Okay. That's why a lot of people suggest not listening to the news or fear mongering or, you know, all of these negative things, because when your central nervous system is activated, you're just so open to suggestion, even as an adult. It also works with evidence-based reasoning. So this is how people get stuck in behavioral patterns, is because your brain is, or your subconscious, your brain is taking a record of every single thing that happens into your life and is trying to correlate things with one another. So for an example, if I have grown up in a household where, you know, my parents did not have a lot of money, okay, money is hard to come by. And I've had actual visceral experiences with that in childhood, right? And growing up, because that's the program that was installed when I was a child. Then as a teen, as a young adult, as an older adult, I'm going to keep on regurgitating that same program because that was what was originally installed. And if I don't know that's a program that's running, I'll continue to repeat that cycle. I have to come in and do subconscious mindset reprogramming in order to override it. Same thing with narcissistic abusive relationships. So if you have inner children and all they have experienced is conditional love, all they have seen is abusive relationships. And when I say abusive relationships, that can mean many different things. It can be physical, spiritual, emotional, mental needs that are not being met or weaponized against you. They're going to gravitate towards narcissistic abusive relationships in adulthood. That I was evidence of that. A lot of my clients are evidence of that. It's just a natural response because that's all you know. That's the programming that was installed. It said, this is what our relationships look like in our life. And when unconditional love comes your way, sometimes that can be really difficult to accept within yourself because it's so different than what you've experienced before. Your subconscious mind is looking to reaffirm the programming. It says, this is what we have always experienced. This is what we're going to do in the future. So you have to come in and kind of put a stop to that and say, no, I want a different experience, right? So you got to do some deep soul diving to figure out what program that you're running in the background. Most open to suggestion right before bed and right when you wake up. So right before you go to sleep, you are kind of in this drowsy state. That is when your subconscious most open to suggestion. Also, when you wake up right before you start your day. Okay, like you're in bed and you open your eyes and you're still kind of sleepy, drowsy. Whatever you insert is going to be your programming for the day. So that's why it's really important to, one, be in your own energy field. A lot of times people want to hop right on social media or turn the news on. If you dysregulate yourself first thing in the morning, you're going to have a dysregulated day for the rest of the day. If you insert fear programming into your brain first thing in the morning, you're going to have fearful thoughts for the rest of the day. If you are scrolling on TikTok in the morning, I had to make sure I'm not doing that anymore. You are, especially if you're not holding good energetic boundaries or empathic boundaries, you have to think that you're energy reading every single person you scroll on. You are taking some of their energy. You are reading their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. That's why if you watch a whole bunch of sad content, you feel sad inside of your body because you're an empath. And so you have to be mindful to start your day off fresh, just being in your own field with your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions so that you can start on a very clear path for the rest of your day. Okay, this is different brainwave states. So most people are living in beta here. Okay, alert and working. Sometimes gamma. Sometimes people are living gamma. A lot of times we're going to talk about each one of these. So gamma brain waves are when you are hyper activated. Okay, and not always negative. Okay, so for an example, we're doing an escape room. If you don't know what those are, okay, it's not like scary. You go to this room and you and a couple other people are trying to figure out all these clues to get out of the room. It's like a game that you do together. It's very interactive, but it's also a very high pressure situation because you have a timer. And so even though you're not in danger, it is really activating your central nervous system because you're having to utilize a lot of your mental capacities, and that timer is running and you're like, oh, I gotta get out of here, right? Taking a test. Like if you're at college or in high school, or you're taking, a test for your job, and then something's kind of like on hinging on that, like your grade or graduating or, getting the job, very high pressure situation. So a lot of mental capacity is needed. If you're wrestling an alligator, okay, I put that in. So not necessarily wrestling an alligator, but back in the day, when we were cave people and we're having to run away from, tigers or, alligators, maybe that's a life and death situation that you're having to get out of. So you're having to use a lot of your mental capacity. Now we go down to beta. This is less mental, okay, but still activated. So this can be you interacting with coworkers in a team meeting, you cooking. Now, some of these are different for different people, okay? Cooking for some people is very relaxing. It's very chill. Sometimes cooking is a very activating thing for people because they don't enjoy it, they don't like it, and then, there's a lot of instructions. So this is if, let's say, we're cooking a very complicated meal, lots of different pans out, lots of different steps that are happening all at one time, but it's not a scary situation, right? Unless your oven's on fire. Video games. This is a little bit different than an escape room. Okay, escape room, you're hinging your mental capacities trying to help other people get out of this room in a certain amount of time. If you're at home playing video games, the stakes are not as high. Okay, so still having to use a lot of mental, but not as intense. But that is a state that most people are living in. It's beta. It's just activated all the time. That is where we experience a lot of catastrophizing and anxiety and fear. If those are not things that you have healed, or things that you're still working on, like it can just snowball out of control. And most people are just living in that state of being 24/7. Okay, even when you sleep, experiencing insomnia, anxiety, just always activated. Now we get down to alpha. So this is a relaxed, reflective state of being. This is how you feel when maybe you're walking by a lake, you're painting, if you're a creative artist, or you're reading. Then we get down to theta brainwaves. This is a drowsy state. This is a meditative state. So you get in this when you are meditating, but also watching TV or watching things on TikTok. Okay, this is not having to use a lot of mental capacity. This is kind of you just in receiving mode. This is a dangerous place to be sometimes, okay? Because whatever that you are putting into your mind is what you are going to get reflected outside of you. So if you are watching a lot of things that are causing your central nervous system to be activated, fear, people on social media talking about being broke, about the world ending, about the economy failing, about this and that and everything, you're going to see more of that in your outer reality. We need to be looking at tools to support us to get out of these places and spaces in our lives, and things that uplift us and that brighten our day and that bring magic and fun and laughter. And then that is the reality experience that you will have outside of you. That's why it's called TV programming. Okay, it's also a numbing behavior that a lot of people use and exhibit, is to kind of get in this numbness state, if you will, because the world can be really exhausting sometimes. Okay? Trauma can be really exhausting. Like figuring out why you're here, what you're doing, what's your soul mission, like all that stuff can take a lot of energy. And so sometimes you just want to do those numbing things, but you can't do that forever, right? Because then you get stuck in that reality and it kind of gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So I'm not above watching TV. I'm not saying I watch TikTok, I watch TV, I do all of these things, but I do them in more of a conscious manner now of being mindful of what is it that I'm putting in there. If I am going to be doing those activities, I need to make sure that it's something that's bringing light and joy and positivity into my life. Otherwise, I will not have a great future moving forward, either that day or just in the foreseeable future, because I'm going to take that methodology of whatever I'm being programmed with me. And I would rather be programmed with positive things for positive results. Then we get down to delta brainwaves. This is where you are asleep, okay, or just extremely sleepy or a dreaming state. This is where you access things like the Akashic records. Notice how gamma up there is the complete opposite of delta with the Akashic records, okay? You have to get to a place where you are able to slow your brain waves down so much that you're at the point where you're almost asleep in order to access these very deep spaces within yourself, or connect to the Akashic records or different timelines, or help heal your inner children at these like very deep soul level spaces. Most of the time when people are meditating, they fall asleep. Okay? Whether you're listening to a guided meditation or you're listening or you're not listening to anything at all and it's just silent. That was me when I first started trying to access the Akashic records. I would fall asleep every single time because I had to train myself how to stay awake at these delta levels. Okay, and it is something that you can do. It takes practice, it takes time, but you can learn how to do it. Okay, and this is work that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about. If you're interested in learning more about brainwaves and how to traverse through these different types, or just learn about them at a more expansive level, definitely recommend checking out Joe Dispenza. He's actually the one that I learned how to get down to these levels of delta brainwaves so that I could access the Akashic records. Okay. This is our conscious mind up here, and this is an iceberg analogy, okay? So 10% is what we are living every single day. This is our logical thinking, our critical thinking. This is the willpower to take action in our life. Also our long-term memory. Our subconscious, like I said, and it kind of goes back and forth, whether it's 90 or 95%. This is what regulates our beliefs, our emotions, our habits, our values, our protective reactions. Again, what are you getting activated within your central nervous system that's making you go into fight or flight? Usually behavioral patterns from childhood, your long-term memory, imagination, and your intuition. Okay, these are some subconscious mind thoughts that you can be having that are not positive, okay, that can really shift the way that you interact with yourself and interact with reality and how reality interacts with you. So I'm too old or I'm too young to do the thing. I'll never have enough money. I always forget things. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve nice things. There's never enough time. Okay, if you believe these things, that will be your reality. If you install new programming and you do the opposite, that'll be your reality. Is that easy? No. Okay. It takes sometimes years to reinstall and have new thought patterns, but it can be done. And once you start learning how to do these things, it gets easier and easier and easier. There was a time in my life where, one, I thought all these things about myself, first of all, and my reality was a reflection of that. And I thought I was my thoughts. Now I'm of the understanding of, nope, that's just my mind. That's just my brain. My brain is throwing up stuff that is based off of past narratives and things that have happened to me. Evidence-based things, but there is nothing stopping me from changing. I can stop right now and pick a different future, pick a different story, pick a different narrative. And you have to practice over and over and over again. And then it gets easier. Like now, I can have thoughts and I'm like, oh, I don't align with that. I know that is just because of something that my grandparents said who raised me. That's something that I heard on the news. That's something that I heard the government say, or my culture, or the religious household that I grew up in. But I'm not gonna align with that. I'm not gonna listen to that. I'll hold space for it. I'll help it heal, but I'm not going to believe that. Okay. These are just thoughts based off of other people's projections and trauma and what they think is available for them in their lives. But I can choose a new reality at any time. Okay, so it's really important to do some deep diving and figure out what your self-limiting beliefs are. If you don't know what they are, you're not going to be able to change. And a lot of times people don't want to do that type of work, that shadow work, because it's intense. It brings up a lot of pain and anxiety and fear. But when you realize what those things are, then you can make a change. Awareness is key. Okay. There have been so many times in my journey where I feel like I'm not making enough work, or I'm not making enough progress, or not doing enough work. And, self-awareness is a beautiful place to be. Even if we're not making any changes, you just recognizing what the behavioral pattern and the trigger is, you're halfway there. It will start to work itself out. If you're taking action steps every single day to say, how can I heal a little bit more? How can I love myself a little bit more? How can I have a little bit more confidence? All these things, they will eventually unravel themselves. And once you start unraveling a couple of them, okay, let's say here, I'm too old or too young, I'll never have enough money. If you work on just those two, okay, or whatever those things are for you, your brain starts to say, oh, wait a minute, I feel like my whole identity might not be what I thought it was. You really start questioning, who am I? That's what we call a dark night of the soul. Okay. And you start having tower moments in your life because you're like, oh, everything I thought about myself is not true. These are things that people have told me or taught me or was emulated to me to do that same type of behavior. But then you have this really like awakening day, like spiritual awakening, and you say, oh, I can have a completely different life. I don't have to follow in my parents' footsteps or my culture's footsteps or my religious footsteps. Right? So it sounds really overwhelming, okay, to like change every single one of your thoughts, but it's more about breaking up the foundation a little bit, and then your brain starts to do a lot of the work for you. Okay. And it starts to look at different ways to help you heal, different people to help support you on your journey. Like the universe really is there. The universe really is there to support you. It just needs you to take a little bit of action, a little bit of healing, a little bit of shadow work, and then it kind of catapults you into just becoming a whole different person. But you got to kind of meet the universe halfway. Everything that is happening in your reality is based off of what your subconscious believes. That's a fact. Okay? I know that if you are living in a state of just a life that is not appealing to you, in various different ways, can be your money, your career, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your partner, whatever it is that is not what you want it to be, it is because of what your subconscious believes is available for you, or what your limiting beliefs are. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because people will be like, oh, well, I didn't choose this. Why would I choose to have negative things happening to me in my life? It's because you didn't choose it. It was installed in you when you were young, either by watching your parents and guardians, or again with religious programming or cultural programming or government programming or news programming. It's things that you were taught. It is not your fault. Now, is it our responsibility to come in and heal those things and be aware of what they are and take action steps and do the shadow work and, do all these things? Yes, because you're the only one that's going to change it. Okay. It's kind of like when I was younger, I had a narcissistic grandfather who raised me. And I also grew up in a religious household. Nothing wrong with religion, but I grew up in a very oppressive household, and women were put down as well. And so I did not have very good confidence or self-concept. And I ended up attracting narcissistic people in my life. Abusive relationships, just various, not even just romantic relationships, but also friendships. And consciously, when I heard somebody say, I am the reason that that happened, that stirred up a lot of like anger in me, because I would say, why would that happen? I wouldn't choose this. Like, this is not my fault. And it wasn't, to some extent. It's because my inner children were seeking those relationships. That's all they'd ever seen. Of course they're going to go after that, because that's the only program that they are aware of. I literally thought that that was normal to experience life that way. Or when I had my spiritual awakening journey, when I had my spiritual awakening, okay, I had grown up in such a, I was homeschooled until 9th grade. I thought that, all these different type of behaviors that people have are evil, like just all the stuff, okay? When I was 22, I went to a music festival, and I was like, wow, everything that I had been told was a lie. All these people who are different than me are beautiful, and they're so sweet, and they're so kind. And it just completely opened up my eyes that I had just been told these things years after years after years after years, and none of it was true. You have to decide what is going to be true for you in your reality, and take those steps through shadow work and healing and doing all these different things to just install what you want to be in there, what you prefer. But you get to choose whatever reality that you want to live in will be for you if you believe it. So we got to work on deprogramming all of these things that are not serving us, so that we can reinstall the new. Oh, okay. Oh, I think I skipped a slide. Hold on. No, I didn't. Okay. Boom. Okay, so we're going to talk about chakras. So chakras here, the chakra system, all the way from the root to the crown. Hold on, let me make sure I didn't skip a slide. Hold on. Okay, I did. Okay, so here we go. Okay, what are chakras? Chakras are energy centers. They are the housers of your life force energy, or your chi. They connect your organs, skin, mind, and your nervous system, your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional bodies. It is much easier to heal one chakra at a time than trying to heal your whole entire system. That's basically the framework I'm teaching as well. Like, hey, how about we just work on our central nervous system for a little while? How about we just work on subconscious mindset reprogramming? How about we just work on our chakras? When you work on one chakra, just like with subconscious mindset reprogramming, it starts to heal other chakras as well. With subconscious mindset reprogram, when you figure out what your limiting beliefs are with money, relationships, career, just different things that you think are available to you based on your worthiness of receiving them. Now we can pinpoint exactly what chakra those things are housed in. So here we go. So your root chakra is over your safety and security, your sense of groundedness, connection to reality. Kind of, what am I doing here, if you will. Your sacral chakra is, my words, I'm so sorry, are related to your emotions and your relationships. Your solar plexus is confidence and willpower. Your heart chakra is self-love and trusting yourself. Throat chakra, self-expression and intuition. Your imagination, the ability to manifest, and your self-concept are your third eye chakra. And your crown chakra is spirituality and your soul mission. I also say, I was going to put in there persecution, fear of persecution, of, becoming a channeler or helping people with spirituality or learning different modalities. Like sometimes we are afraid to step into those things because of the fear of persecution. So that's also connected with your crown chakra. But you can go through all of those self-limiting beliefs that you have in your life and attach them to a chakra based off of this. Then it's a lot easier to heal because you're like, oh, I can just go on Google or YouTube or Spotify or wherever and find different resources for my crown chakra or my throat chakra or my sacral chakra, and then figure out how to heal it from there. For example, okay, so our heart chakra is over love, compassion, and trusting self. So some physical symptoms that you can experience are issues with your respiratory system, high and low blood pressure, poor circulation, and then energetically holding grudges, trust issues with yourself or other people, feeling lonely, defensive, or issues with commitment. So we know that we are running subconscious mind reprogramming, okay, or programming, and we want to reinstall. We can take that limiting belief, attach it to our heart chakra, and say, let me go find different ways to heal my heart with this limiting belief. And look up journal prompts as well. Throat chakra. So this is over voice and speaking or expression. Some different physical symptoms. Thyroid, neck and shoulder pain, sore throat, hearing, because your throat chakra is connected to your ears. And then energetically, trouble communicating, trouble holding boundaries, or trouble expressing yourself. Oh, okay, I missed one. Here we go. Root chakra. So this is over safety and security. You can feel a lack mentality, feel insecure or disconnected from others, disconnected from your reality. You can feel fatigue, insomnia, digestion, and anxiety. And then your sacral chakra is over emotions. You can feel mood swings, not passionate about things in life. Maybe you were passionate and you're not anymore, or you just haven't ever felt really passionate about anything. Relationship issues, lack of creativity, low self-worth, or constipation. You can go on Google and take your self-limiting belief list and just put in root chakra symptoms, sacral chakra symptoms, solar plexus symptoms, okay, and attach them to one another. So much easier to heal that way. That's how I've healed all of my chakras. Okay, these are different ways that you can heal them, and this is just a couple of examples. So EFT tapping, that's where you touch different points on your body that are connected to your meridian lines. And your meridian lines are the energetic pathways of your chi flow. And so when we have a lot of trauma and anxiety, it blocks up those pathways. And so EFT tapping can help recirculate your energy. Reiki and light language, eating specific foods, like different colors for different chakras, like eating tomatoes for your root chakra or eating blueberries for your crown and third eye chakra. Wearing certain colors, color therapy is very beneficial, very therapeutic. Sound healing, like going to sound baths or drumming circles, subconscious reprogramming, like we talked about, yoga and qigong, or inner child healing. Okay, speaking of inner child healing, so now we're going to go up the ladder to inner child healing, which is connected to your root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, and your heart chakra. So this is where we're starting to clear out this heavy, dense PTSD and trauma out of the bottom of our chakra system, because we need to do that in order to reach these higher level esoteric understandings and connections. Okay, this is where our beliefs of reality are rooted, and not all of them, but most of them. With all my work with myself and my clients, I can usually track back where that belief first started in your formative years. Generally between birth and 12 to 15. Like that is most often when it started. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't remember a lot of my childhood. So your inner children, if you've experienced trauma, will sometimes block out all of your memories, good and bad. because they don't want you to re-experience it. They're trying to keep your central nervous system from being activated. They don't want you to be in fear and anxiety or fight and flight. And so they have kind of like tucked all that stuff back there. And so if you come up with that list of limiting beliefs, just figure out when's the first time that you can remember. Maybe it is you at 25. Maybe it is you at 18 and 15. Maybe it doesn't go all the way back. Just start as far back as you can. And usually what ends up happening is when you heal that level, you start going further back. There have been so many times when I thought that I healed something all the way out, like stuff with me at 12 years old. And I'm like, oh, actually, that happened to me at 6 years old as well, just in a different perspective, in a different consciousness level. But I had to heal the 12-year-old in order to find what happened at 6 years old. So just start where you can. Are people you learn from fulfilled? This was a really enlightening thing that I heard from a different spiritual teacher of, are the people in your life that taught you all the things that you know? Okay, your parents, teacher, guardians, are they happy? Are they super excited about their life? Do they feel fun and magical and whimsical? Do they have a really good confidence? Are they on their healing journey? Are they achieving the goals that they wanted to in life? Or are they anxious and depressed and fearful and not working on their stuff? You need to be listening to people who are uplifting you and bringing positivity and joy and light into your life. Don't pedestalize somebody who is not where you want to be. Okay, we shouldn't pedestalize anybody, but don't pedestalize like, oh, well, this is just how my mom was. This is just how my grandpa was. This is just what my culture says and my religion. Like, okay, are they a living, breathing example of who you want to be? Okay, that's really beneficial sometimes for inner child healing, because sometimes inner children are really scared to make changes because, the unknown can be a scary place. But just because the unknown, you don't know what's going to happen, doesn't mean that it's not going to be a million times better on the other side. Right? So this is why it's also really important to find people who are where you want to be in life. Like, I have always made it a point to look at my goals and my visions, right? And say, where can I find somebody who is living this life already? Whether it's financially or as a spiritual teacher or a mentor or a business person or a leader. Like, I need good examples so that I can make those identity shifts. I cannot base my life off of the people who raised me, because that was trauma. That was PTSD. That was oppression. That was me being scared all the time. That was me having super low confidence, low self-esteem. Like, I got to find people who are where I want to be. And where did you hear that? I have an example of, excuse me, let me drink some water before I get into that. I was holding a different masterclass one day, and I made a mistake. And after I got off, like a mistake with one of the slides, and after I got off, I heard this voice in my head, and it said, "You are so stupid. Nobody is going to listen to you. They're going to think that you don't know what you're talking about," and just kept on saying. I was like, whoa, where is that coming from? I don't think that I'm stupid. I think I'm very intelligent. It wasn't coming from me. It was coming from my inner child. And so I had to go and sit in meditation and talk to her and say, like, hey, why do you think that about yourself? And she said, well, that's what grandma used to say about herself all the time, which was true. My grandmother did not have good confidence. She did not have good self-esteem, and she was constantly berating herself and putting herself down. Now, was I born like that? No. I watched an authoritative figure say those things about herself over and over and over again. And I said, oh, that must be what we do. And so that voice that I was hearing in my head, I thought was my own voice, because you hear your own voice in your head. Okay, for the most part, some people hear other people's voices, but you hear other people's thoughts and their feelings and their beliefs and their stories and narratives through your own voice. And if you hear it over and over and over again, you start to believe it, and you say, oh, that is my voice. It is me. Just like we talked about before, thoughts aren't you. They're just things that your mind is regurgitating from programming or things they've heard from others. So I had to sit with her and be like, that doesn't have to be our story. Let me explain to you why we're so intelligent, why we're so amazing for putting that masterclass together in the first place, how it's going to help people in their lives. Okay? And how much time and energy we spent with that. I was like, we're super intelligent, super smart people. And so that was me reinstalling new programming, but also explaining to her why she thought that way, and not calling her stupid or dumb for because you could get into a vortex of like, oh my God, I'm so stupid for thinking that I'm stupid. Okay? So I had to sit with her and be like, girl, like, that has nothing to do with us. That is trauma that my grandmother experienced. We need to let that go. Like, let's create a new story for ourselves, a new belief system for ourselves. And is it a trauma projection? Like, this is like, let's say that your parents used to spank you, okay? Which I don't, if you may, have different thoughts on that, but it's okay. So people are all the time like, oh, well, that's just what my parents did. Okay. And it's just because that's what their parents did. And it's just what that parents did. And, keep on going back in the generation. That doesn't mean it's okay. That does not mean that it's all right to do these things. And you can break the cycle. You can break the generational trauma. That's what a lot of us have come here to do. So you need to ask yourself, like, when you're having these thoughts or these behavioral patterns, or you not taking action, or you thinking that you're unworthy or experiencing shame or guilt, where'd you learn that from? You weren't born with that. Okay. Once you identify who it is that you pick that up from, you start to detach from it. You start to say, oh, this is not mine. I can just release it. And sometimes it's easier said than done. I get that. But the more that you identify who that is, where it came from, where did I pick that up? Where did I learn that? What do I want to install instead? That's where you start to see really big shifts. Okay, talking to children's consciousness. So you as an adult, you consciously, okay, know why, or you can come to peace with things. You can say like, oh, like, I've forgiven this person, I've forgiven myself, but you can still have issues that keep on resurfacing. And it's like people get caught in these behavioral patterns and are like, I know why all of these things happened. I've forgiven myself or forgiven others, but it just won't go away. It's because you actually have to talk to the childhood consciousness within yourself at their level, because it didn't happen to you. It didn't happen to you at 20. It didn't happen to you at 30. It didn't happen to you at 40. It happened to you at 5. It happened to you at 9. It happened to you at 12 or at 15. You have to go in within yourself and actually speak to that version, because you're going to speak different to a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old, different than you would speak to your friend, to your adult friend, or different that you would yourself even. Okay. You have to speak to them on a 5-year-old level, a 9-year-old level, a 12-year-old level. And that is what clears it out at the root. Okay, so we are going to take a pause so that we can all run to the restroom, take a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue on with the inner child healing. I'm going to hit pause on the recording here, and then we will be right back. Hey everybody, we are back. And so we are going to talk about becoming the higher self. So when you start your journey on inner child healing, you are really learning how to become the protector, the guardian, the teacher, the leader that you needed in your life when you were younger. And this is not to say that your parents and guardians, didn't do a great job. Okay. But there's always times in our younger formative years where maybe we didn't get what we needed at certain times, whether again that's emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. But this is where you can come in and give your inner children those things that they needed in the past. You can also help them re-spark their imagination. Trauma and PTSD takes up a lot of energy. It holds a lot of space in your energy field. This is where people want to get into, the Akashic records and soul contracts and past lives and channeling and modalities, but they're having trouble with connecting or with awakening and activating different gifts, having clarity of thought, having clarity of mind, trusting self, being able to make, aligned decisions, not doing impulsive behaviors, being able to let go of behavioral patterns or relationships that aren't serving you. What is keeping you stuck in those places and spaces is usually trauma and PTSD and those subconscious mindset reprogramming that we need to reinstall, right? And so when you start to unravel these things from around your inner children, that's where you find immense peace and joy and magic and fun and laughter. That is what, when I'm helping clients with inner child healing, we're going in to actually speak with their inner child, not as a memory. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but not as a memory, but actually in that time and space. And once we allow them, or not allow, but we create the space for them to let go of those things that have happened to them and show them like, hey, you can have a different future. We don't have to keep going in these same cycles that we have. It is the most liberating feeling for them and me for being a facilitator and helping them with that. But just being able to take that shroud from around them that's been weighing them down for so many years. And your inner children are so connected to different dimensions and frequencies. Like they can see and hear things that as an adult, we have so many things that weigh and bog us down. Bills, okay, the state of the world, all these different things, or being a caretaker, you got a bunch of kids, all these different, things that are pulling us all these different directions that, life just feels really heavy sometimes, like walking through jello or, just overstimulated with all that we need to do. Inner children don't live in that space. They live in a sense of amazement and wonderment and curiosity, and they are so much more connected to the higher ethereal realms. But the trauma and the PTSD that we experience in the programming is what creates filter lenses and creates those distortions and creates blocks. But when you work backwards with where you are now and learn how to become a higher self to your inner children, and then we do that very deep healing with them, then you start unlocking all of these different things that you want to get into. Modalities, channeling, just feeling just overall more magical and whimsical, and seeing that happen in your outer reality, making more money, like just having all of these goals that you want to achieve are so much more easy when you help your inner children step out of that trauma they've been experiencing for so long. It really helps you create a new reality. Think of it like a blank slate. Okay, all of those things that you have learned from other people and all of the things that you have experienced, what if you didn't have those? What would you do if you were fully believed in yourself, or you were super confident or super empowered? Right? That's the state that we are trying to get to with inner child healing. Is creating a new pathway that does not have any of those obstacles in their way. Because you weren't born like that. That's not your multidimensional self. They also help you activate your spiritual gifts. Again, they're tapped into the Akashic records already, kids. They can see through portals. They can, all these things. That's also why sometimes people get blocked. Because when I've done record sessions with people, kids will see different entities. That if you don't have anybody to ask, what is a portal? What is a different dimension? What is this being that I saw? What is this angel or this mantis being, or all these different things? That's scary as a child. I was a very awakened child. I could see different things, and I grew up in a very religious household. And I'm not trying to have an exorcism, so I didn't tell anybody about it. Okay? I didn't tell anybody about any of the things that I was experiencing because I was scared, and because I knew that that was going to be perceived in a negative light. I was worried about being persecuted and all these different things, probably because of past life stuff as well. And so I just locked it down and I turned all my spiritual gifts off. And it took me a very long time to reopen them back up. Okay? So we got to help create safety and security in our own lives, in our current reality, through regulating our central nervous system and through subconscious mindset reprogramming and working on our chakras. Because how are you going to make somebody else feel safe if you don't feel safe? Okay. With your inner children, sometimes you don't even need to work through trauma. Like there have been so many sessions that I've had with people, we don't even talk about the trauma stuff that happened. All we do is help their inner children feel safe. And we help them feel unconditionally loved. And we help tell them you don't have to feel shameful and guilty for the things that happen to you or the way that your life is right now, because that's not your fault. That's healing. I think sometimes we just need to liberate them from the pattern that they've been in and say, hey, there's more options for you out there. So sometimes it's just literally about safety and unconditional love. Okay, when you finally integrate the shadow, now that we've done all of this like heavy stuff, right, in our bottom lower chakras, we can start getting into the more fun things, right? And working with our inner children towards a new reality. So this is where we get into self-concept. So we're going up the ladder again to our heart chakra and then to our throat chakra. And what is self-concept? This is how you view yourself. And this is made up of 4 different components. Your self-identity, who you believe you are. So if somebody asked you to tell you, for you to tell them about yourself, what would you say? Like for me, it might be like, oh, my name is Sage. I'm a coach. I am a mom. I have dogs. Like I live in Georgia. I'm an American. Like all these self-identifiers, that is what your self-identity is. Now, we could probably go a little bit more cosmic and be like, oh, no, that's just the human version of you. Okay, that is one perspective lens, but for the sake of, time, we're gonna, just the way that you identify yourself in the here and now. Your public identity. This is the view of yourself based off of other people's perceptions. So this is why when you get on a spiritual awakening journey and you're trying to make all these changes in your life and your family is just like, what the heck are you doing? Who are you? This is not how you've acted. This is not how you've been. Like they have a very specific narrative of you, especially family members, because they've been in your life for so long. But same thing in like coworkers or friends, like you start to grow and evolve and they're like, it agitates them and they're like, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm supposed to grow and evolve. But sometimes it can be difficult to traverse those relationships because people are like, oh no, you've always been this way. And it's, too much of a change in my own mental mind for you to change into a different person. Sometimes your public identity is how you think people are receiving you. I used to think that people didn't like me. I didn't like myself. And so I was projecting that onto them. Like that was a me thing. Okay. So you got to check too, like, do people actually feel this about me or have these narratives, or is that me in my own mind projecting outward? Okay. Your behavioral identity, the self created by your actions and your habits, that forms your personality. And then your ideal identity. This is the version that you aspire to be. This is future you. This is like, if I had everything that I wanted, all the characteristics, all the personality traits, all of the 3D things, my most optimal self. Okay, again, how you view yourself, your identity, and your persona. It's also what you think you're worthy of receiving. That goes in tandem with your manifestations. If you do not believe you're worthy, those things are not going to come in. And so we have to do self-concept work in order to understand, like, I'm worthy of receiving whatever it is that I want to receive. That takes a lot of self-love as well. Okay, and long self-aware, or not self-aware, a self-love journey. I've had to go on that path as well. Understanding that everything is a projection of your internal state. However you're resonating within is what you will see without. So if we are still working on a lot of trauma, not saying y'all here, just people in general, okay? If we are turning a blind eye to the trauma, the PTSD, the limiting beliefs, all these things, you're not going to see a lot of positive changes in your outer reality because it's literally just a reflection. When I started to work on my healing path, And I started to work on my worthiness and my deservingness and holding boundaries and respecting my own time and energy and valuing myself and eating better foods and drinking water and taking care of my physical body and working on my relationship with money. Everything outside of me changed. Every single thing. I am a completely different person than I was 15 years ago. But the only person, like the only thing that changed was me. It had nothing to do with anybody outside of me or any external circumstances. And I know that it really feels that way sometimes. And I was in victimization mode for a long time. And I say that, take that with a grain of salt. It wasn't my fault that I was there. I did not understand any of this stuff that I'm talking about right now. And that's how the school system has kind of failed us. Like, they don't teach us these things. All of this stuff should be taught to us as children. Okay, so that we can have a better control over ourselves and our reality in a positive way, not a negative controlling way, but a positive way. So we can make these effective changes in our life and not have to experience, all of the things that a lot of us empaths and light workers have done. So I try to make it a point as much as I can to help my son on his path. And I know a lot of other parents, awakened parents, are as well. But I know it's sometimes difficult because you're also combating a lot of programming systems, government, religious context, school context, all these things. But anyway, so everyone is also a reflection of you. There's only you in your reality. This is a higher esoteric concept here, but it's just you. The things around you change when you change within. If you're of the understanding that we're all from source and we're all different reflections of one another, experiencing ourselves, however you are showing up in your life and for the other people around you, those people around you will change. You cannot change other people. Like my son's father and I did not have a great relationship. And it was just very tumultuous, very traumatic. And I realized that I needed to give a lot of forgiveness in my own life and that I needed to show up differently and valuing my time and energy and what I was willing to allow myself to experience. Like, I needed to be respected, right? And hold good boundaries. And when I started doing that, our relationship dynamic changed. And he actually started completely changing his persona and his characteristics. And now he's a completely different person. And we have a great co-parenting relationship. But that only happened because I decided to show up differently in my own life. Okay. But when you change within, the things around you change. Okay, now we go up to quantum manifestation in our third eye chakra. Okay, so emotions are the fuel for your manifestations. It's not actually the 3D thing that you want. We think that, okay, and on some level we do, okay, we definitely do want those things, but it's the feeling that is going to bring you, like what feeling is that money going to bring you, or the new car, or the new home, or the new career, or being in your soul purpose, your soul mission. So that's why it's so important to kind of work on that frequency scale that I showed you in the beginning of clearing out the fear and the anxiety and the programming and working with your inner children. Okay, also learning how to process your emotions. It's okay to feel the icky ones, but if that is your fundamental vibrational state, that will be your fundamental reality outside of you. So we have to learn how to process these things in our body in order to clear the path for more joy and more whimsy and more magic and security and confidence and empowerment. Like, those are all emotions as well. Channeling frequencies. Why do you want to be a channeler? Okay, there's a whole big chat outside of this that I can do. But channeling is not always channeling beings. It's not always channeling aliens or channeling spirit guides or your higher self. Channeling is learning how to channel frequencies, because everything is frequencies. Everything. Money is a frequency. That car that you want is a frequency. That new job that you want, and the new couches that you want for your house. Like, everything is just energy. And if you learn what emotion is that thing going to bring me, you can channel that emotion. You clear out all that heavy stuff in the bottom of your chakras, And now I'm experiencing more peace. Those new couches in my house are going to bring me more peace. Where am I already feeling peace in my life? Let me focus on that. Let me be grateful and thankful and, really be appreciative for the abundance of peace that I already have in my life. Oh my gosh, that feels so good. This is exactly what my couches are going to feel like. Oh, that feels really good to my central nervous system. It doesn't feel scary. I don't have to worry about when it's going to come in. I just know that I'm going to follow the feelings of peace and ask for more of that in my life and infuse more of that into my life whenever I can. And now you're a vibrational frequency match for those couches. And they will come in. I don't know why I picked couches. I want new couches in my home, so that's probably why. But, but that's for anything in your life. Like, what feeling do you want money to bring to you? It's just a feeling. You can match up with that in the etheric field and bring it in a lot faster if you stop focusing on the tangible thing and you focus on the emotion. And how can I bring more of this into my life? Connecting with future you. So you can actually give birth or give consciousness to your higher self version and connect with them in the ethers through meditation. And they can give you specific advice and guidance on how to achieve your goals and how to achieve your dreams. You don't have to feel lost and confused and like you don't have a compass out here and you're just like doing the best that you can. Like even before this masterclass, I went and got in meditation and I started talking to the future sage that had already done this class. And I was talking as the higher self to the sage that was in the past before I did this masterclass. Okay. So I'm talking to her and I'm like, hey, tell me how you're feeling. Okay. I just want to let you know the class went great. It was wonderful. Everybody learned so many new things. It helped them on their journey. I'm so proud of you. You're so smart and intelligent for putting this together and all the time and energy that you invested in like really talking to her and like hyping her up. Okay. And then I go sit down to do this masterclass and I feel great. Right? Because I already talked to that version, right? But I have been doing that all along the process of putting this masterclass together. Like when I felt stressed or anxious or like, am I going to get this done? Do I have enough in here? Is it clear and concise? I just go talk to future me. And she gives me the instructions like, well, how about you do this? How about you do this? How about you add this in? How about you ask your audience? How about you make content around it? All these different things because she's already there. She's a real living, breathing version of myself. And so that is how you can really bring some amazing things into your life because it's not like, oh, I'm just out here trying to figure out. No, you're actually talking to the version of yourself that already has those things and becoming the new identity. It's really important to figure out who you're trying to shift into. Who are you trying to become? What kind of thoughts are they thinking? What kind of emotions are they feeling? Like, how are they carrying themselves? How are they dressing? You want to make them as real as possible because then you have vibrational coordinates to find them in the ethers and actually become them. I spend a lot of my free time envisioning who future sage is, not just one version. Who am I a year from now? Who am I 5 years from now? Who am I 10 years from now? Let me go in and speak with them and figure out like what is the best game plan. What do I need to heal? What do I need to focus on releasing? What do I need to reprogram within myself? What can I help my inner children with? Like you can do that backwards with your inner children as their higher self. Let your next higher selves do that for you. Oop. Okay. Now we're going to get up to, let me move my screen down so y'all can see. Timelines, soul contracts, karmic lessons, and Akashic records. Okay. This is our crown chakra. I want to say before I talk about this is not a system that you just start with your root chakra and then you go up to your crown chakra and then you're done. This is a cycle. I will go from my root chakra all the way to my crown chakra, and then I start all the way back down at my root chakra because there is always new levels of self-discovery. There's new levels of consciousness that you can reach. There's new depths that you can heal your inner children. There's always new level programming that you can install. There's always new chakra expansion that you can experience. It's all these different identities that you can move up to. I will say, okay, let's say that you're a baby, okay, at your root chakra, and you just started on this journey, and you go all the way up to your crown chakra, and you learn all these different things. Then you start over as a baby again and go through the process. However, you started at ground zero here to begin with, okay, on your ascension journey. Then you move up to level 10. So it's not like you're starting as a baby down here at level 0. You're starting at 10 as a baby, okay? Then you go through it again, and now we're at level 20. And then you do it again, and now we're at level 30. So it might feel like you're having to start all the way over. And I want to say this because when I was in my journey, I was like, oh, I'll just learn all this stuff and then I'll be done. And then it's like all this stuff keeps on coming up like over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh, there's something wrong with me, or I didn't do enough. No, that's just the ascension path. You just expand continuously over and over and over again. It gets easier. It gets a whole heck of a lot easier the deeper the cycles you get into, right? And not saying life, is always like easy peasy lemon squeezy, but like my life is vastly different than it was in the past. Like when I'm going through trauma healing or inner child healing, or like whatever, self-limiting beliefs, like it's so much easier to handle because I've been through so many cycles. And I also like realize it's okay to continue to keep cycling. I want to continue to keep cycling. Like I don't want to just stay at the same level all the time. Like I want to expand in every single area of my life. And so in order to do that, I have to go through this system. Okay. So I just want to say that before we move forward. Okay, why do we want to connect to different timeline versions of ourselves? Like when we're talking about past lives, I don't like to call them past lives because time's not linear and they're all happening at one time. Like when I go in to do Akashic Record sessions with people and I'm helping them, connect to these different versions, they're talking to me in real time. Like I'm jumping into the time and space where they're at in the ethers and we are having a real-time conversation. It's not just a memory, which is a little bit different than past life regression. Sometimes that is like just looking at memories, but it's all happening at once. Okay? So in saying that, energetic timestamps is what we are helping our inner children with. This is where you get into deep Akasha healing work. When you are meeting with a psychologist or a therapist, which love them. Okay, I was going to be a clinical psychologist. They are helping you reframe memories. Okay, they're helping you come to terms with the things that have happened to you and offering forgiveness either to yourself or other people, all this different stuff. Akasha work is different. This is you actually going in to meet with your inner children or your different timeline versions of yourself in real time. When I take people in to go heal their inner children, they're like, oh my God, I did not realize that this is a living, breathing consciousness that is a different version of me. Yep. And that's why you've had such a difficult time healing, because you were trying to heal a memory. And you're trying to do it through your adult mind. You literally need to go into a different dimensional space within yourself and talk to 5-year-old you. And hug them and show them unconditional love and explain to them why the things that happen to them are not their fault, or why they shouldn't feel shameful or guilty, or give them the things that they needed in childhood. You have to actually speak to that little child or that different timeline version of yourself. That's how we do soul integration. When you experience PTSD or trauma in your now experience, in your now incarnation, or in your different timeline versions, they get caught in these things called energetic timestamps. And this is where they think that trauma and PTSD is continuing to happen. If you are attracting narcissistic, abusive relationships, I will go into a person's Akashic records and I will find one of their inner children who first saw that emulated. And I will ask them, hey, did you know that there's an adult version of you? And sometimes they'll say no. They think that they're still living in childhood. That's your subconscious. You are looking through your inner children's lenses and interacting with yourself in reality and your relationships and your job and career through a 5 or 12 or 15-year-old's eyes. And so I have to say, hey, there's actually a whole adult over here that is your higher self. Let me connect y'all to one another so they can help you start healing. And then sometimes they'll say, yeah, I do know there's an adult, but they're so scared to change, to heal, because they think that they're going to dissolve. They think that you're trying to leave them behind. And I'm like, no, you're coming with. You're coming with to the new life. All we're doing is taking this trauma around you and then pulling you out of this dark space that you have been in, where you're experiencing, fear, anxiety, you're worried about people yelling at you, or weaponizing things against you, or all these different things, or entities and beings talking to you, like whatever paradigm that you're trapped in right now in your reality. We just show them like, hey, there's a whole new path available for you. You don't have to stay in this paradigm that you've been stuck in of just like regurgitating the same behavioral pattern. But you have to go in and explain to them like, hey, we don't have to do that anymore. I'm here. I'm here to come get you. I'm here to come help you heal. Okay. Receiving and becoming mentors. So when you connect to different timeline versions, different past lives, you can actually ask mentors that are really good at different spiritual gifts, or really good at leadership, or had a lot of money in their incarnation, was really good with their finances, or somebody who's really good at architecture. If you have one of those, if you want to be an architect in this lifetime, you can go through these different slices of your Akashic records and ask to channel one of your past lives, different timelines, okay? Or you can be the mentor to different timeline versions of yourself. Like for me, I'm really good at leadership. And maybe some other timeline versions of me aren't so great at leadership. And so I can serve as an advisor to them and help them in their incarnations. And just like with me, I had a lot of financial wounds that I had to work through in my life. And I could go in my Akashic records and find a different version of me that's really good at finances and ask them, hey, what did you do in your life? Okay. And that advice is going to resonate a lot deeper with me than listening to maybe a financial advisor on YouTube. Okay, because my energetics and my frequency are so much closer to this different version of me than this random person over here on YouTube. You can also channel different gifts and abilities from your different timelines. If there are some modalities that you want to learn in this human incarnation, and you don't want to spend as much time researching, you can go into your Akashic records and ask if there's a Reiki practitioner that you've incarnated as. If there's a Akashic record reader, if there's an astrologer, if there's an astronomer, if there's somebody who is really good at light language, and you can channel directly from them. Like when I was learning about Reiki, I did not understand it. It was not clicking. Partly because it wasn't time yet, but I started to get back into Reiki, and then I said, let me go in and see if I can find a different version of me that understands Reiki at a very deep level. And then I found a version of me, and I started channeling directly from her. And all of a sudden it started making complete sense, and I became a really great Reiki practitioner, Reiki master. And I did not have to spend a whole bunch of time studying Reiki. Like I did. I took a course on Reiki and all these things, but channeling directly from her saved me a lot of time and energy of having to like relearn these practices. And so that's a great way to utilize different timeline versions of yourself, or connect with different timeline versions. Okay, so we're going to talk about our higher self really quick, and then our oversoul. Okay, I want you to envision that this is the journey of life. Okay, this mountain. That's you as a baby down here when you first incarnated. This version of you up here is your highest self. This is the version of you who wrote your soul contracts, of all the people that you're going to meet, all the experiences that you're going to have, all the lessons that you're going to learn, all the challenges that you're going to go through in life. They can see everything about your life. Okay. Let's say this is you right now, this version. You are in the mountain. You cannot see. You are going through the trees, you're going through the lakes and the streams, and you're like, where the heck am I supposed to go? That's where this higher self comes in, because they can see more of the trail. They can also talk to the next higher self and get advice from them. You don't just have one higher self, you have multitudes of higher selves, just like you have multitudes of inner children within you as well. And so when you start learning how to connect to, let's say, a higher self a year from now, you can get so much more direction and clarity on where you're headed, because this next higher self is talking to the one after them. That's maybe like 5 years from now. Okay. And the same thing goes with your inner children. There's you right here, and you're talking to this 15-year-old and you're helping them heal. And then they're going back and helping these younger versions of yourself heal, because time is not linear. So you start having all these different splices and facets of yourself healing and helping each other, instead of you just feeling very stuck and bogged in and constricted in your now reality. Okay, so again, this is represented by you as a baby, a you at the end of your life, or the highest self, and this is you now. When you teach yourself how to become a higher self to your inner children, that is what I did. I could not hear my higher self. No matter how hard I tried, I could not hear my spirit guides, nothing. I was like, okay, well, if I can't hear that way, I'm going to teach myself how to become a higher self to my inner children. And in doing that, I opened up the pathways to my higher selves. I taught myself how to be a leader to my inner children, how to set good examples for them. I went and helped them heal their, their chakras, the things that were going on, the subconscious mindset reprogramming, all those things that we talked about on the bottom lower levels. It cleared all my channels and my pathways to hear my spirit guides and my higher self, because all of that stuff that happens to us in childhood and younger years, teens, young adults, is taking up so much space in your meridian lines, your chakras, your subconscious. Clear that out. You don't have a problem hearing your higher selves and accessing your spiritual gifts and all of these things that we want to get into. This is why people say like shadow work is so important. It's such a fundamental key piece in order to ascend, if you will, to reach enlightenment. It's because it's so heavy and dense. And so the same application goes for your past lives or these different timelines. Okay, so what you are doing when you are healing your inner children is you are teaching yourself how to timeline jump in your Akashic records, because we're not healing memories. We're actually healing different consciousness versions of us in different time and space with our inner children. It is super easy to access different timeline versions of yourself then. If you are experiencing something that you want to heal, okay, and you're like, I think that I might have a past life that dealt with this, okay, either with like finances or relationships or persecution or trust issues, like whatever it is, okay, you cannot go and help them heal these different timelines, these past lives, if you have an inner child that is dealing with the same issue. That is how the Akashic records work. You have to learn how to heal it with your inner children before you can go heal it with a different timeline. Okay, because the Akashic records work in layers. Okay, there's you right now, there's your inner children, and then there's different timeline versions. Okay, so you learning how to heal something in this incarnation, it makes you become an expert. Now you have the tools and resources. Now you can do even deeper soul healing and soul fragmentation type of work if you learn how to do this. Just like with hearing your higher self. Well, why are you trying to hear your higher self if you've got inner children that need healing? It's very difficult to make forward movement if you've got the PTSD and the trauma and you've got programming and stuff going on in your chakras and all this stuff. The path to hear your higher self is going backwards. Okay, and healing those things, because then the pathway is clear. It's like, oh, well, of course I can become a new identity. Of course I can imagine a new life for myself. You know, of course I can like quantum manifest and all these things, because I'll have all this stuff weighing and bogging me down. And then it just gives you so much more access to all these different versions of yourself. I will say, you can ask if there are different timeline versions of you that are really good at healing something. Okay, whether it's shame or guilt or financial things, just like whatever that you need help with in your life, go in meditation and ask if you can connect with a different timeline version. I'm sure there's a version of you that has experienced this before that would love to help you. Even if you cannot hear them, ask. You will get intuitive nudges and downloads, and they will help you. Okay, just like your spirit guides will. Even if you cannot clearly help them, it will come through in your own consciousness. Okay? But in order for you to clear something out in a different timeline, you got to learn how to clear it out in your timeline in order to be of assistance to them. Okay. Up here at the tippy top where we see the sun, okay, that's going to be represented as source energy. The next version down here, this is your oversoul. These are different timeline versions of you, these different mountains, okay? So at the tippy top, we have your highest self. Let's say this is our incarnation right now. Let's say there's a timeline over here where you were alive in the 1800s, okay? In that timeline where you lived from 1800 to 1860, okay? You also have the exact same system running. You have a highest self that's talking to all these different versions through adulthood, through young adult, through teens, children, all the way to a baby, okay? So these are all the different timeline versions of you. When you learn how to access your Akashic records, you can talk to all of these different highest selves. You can create a council where you start really accessing some real high esoteric knowledge and wisdom, because you are connecting with the highest version of yourself through all of these different facets, okay? The oversoul is the first version of you that comes from source. It's the first version of you that comes into being. All of these different higher selves from different incarnations are feedback looping information to the oversoul. This is the guardian of all of your different timelines. You can connect with your oversoul as well. That takes a lot more time and practice to do. And I have connected with my oversoul several different times throughout my incarnation, depending on like where I'm at in my journey and why I'm trying to connect with them. But it can really help you remember yourself outside of all of these incarnations, like your true multidimensionality, like you as source, like no limitations, no behavioral patterns, no triggers, no trauma, no PTSD, like beyond. Okay. And that can be some really great fuel for you to keep going through these processes and these cycles and learning these different things, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about the Akashic records and soul contracts and karmic lessons really quick. Let me light this incense here. Okay, so the I'm probably too close to the microphone. Okay, so the Akashic records, or the Akasha field, if you will. The Akashic records are a vibrational record of all of your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions across all space, time, and dimensions. So you have your own Akashic records. This is a file, if you will, multitudes of files. Okay, you can think of the Akashic records like your own personal filing cabinet, all the different incarnations of the different files, okay, that you can access. But then the filing cabinet is held within a bigger building, the Akasha fields. And when you are able to connect into your Akashic records, you can learn all different types of information about yourself, right? But you can also learn information outside of yourself, like things that you have never experienced, like different planetary systems, different star beings. You can learn about different technologies, different type of plants, different type of animals, right? And everything has consciousness. The Akashic records are for everything. You can read the Akashic records of a rock. You can read it of your pets. You can read it of a building. You can read it of a piece of land. You can read it of, whatever, your shoes, whatever you want. Everything has an Akashic record. Just because you have shoes, maybe they were a bird. Maybe they were a person. Maybe they were an alien. Okay, alien. It's loosey-goosey, but you always have to ask permission, though, to read somebody else's Akashic records. Like, you have to get to a level where you can energetically ask permission. I also don't ever recommend, like, this is just me and my personal, I do not recommend reading children's Akashic records. Like, I do believe in free will. And I don't think that young children are at the conceptual level where they can give permission to do those things. Also, like dogs and plants and animals, sometimes they'll say no. Like one of my dogs was like, no. And two of them were like, sure. And it was like, nope. And I have to respect her saying that, right? But that's also why we want to get to a level where we can channel and read frequency and understand frequency so that we can ask permission to read other versions of self, if you will, like the plants, animals, trees, shoes, all these different things, different pieces of land. Connecting with your Akashic records is really helping you see yourself from an outsider perspective. Like we get so bogged down in our 3D human paradigm that it's very difficult to see from a higher level perspective. Like we get caught up in our emotions and the trauma and the PTSD and the behavioral patterns and all these different things. Your Akashic records, when you go in meditation, is really to help you detach. Okay, it's almost like when you go to a friend for advice, your friend is not in your situation. They can see things logically. Okay, they can use their analytical mind. They can see where the gaps are. They can see the behavioral patterns that you can't see. That's what the Akashic records does. It allows you to step outside of yourself and say, oh, this is why things are the way that they are. Okay, this is the reason I am the way that I am. Oh, this is just because my central nervous system is activated. Oh, this is just because nobody taught me how to process my emotions, right? It also helps you have new ideas and new insight that you normally wouldn't have, because if you are not connected to your Akashic records, you are only looking through your human lens in this incarnation, based on the programming, based on the trauma, based on the PTSD. Well, if we can get up in frequency enough, you have access to everything that you wouldn't normally have access to. That's because you are connecting to the Akasha field. You can connect to different versions that are really good at things. You can read the Akasha records of other people throughout history. Like you can literally go in meditation and ask to read Nikola Tesla's Akasha records, or Nelson Mandela, or whoever you want to read, or living people. But you have to, again, ask permission. And sometimes they'll say no, okay? Or you can ask to read Albert Einstein's, okay? It also helps you expand your knowledge and wisdom. Doing Akashic record readings with other people, or even myself, okay? Even on myself, like different timelines, but especially with other people, I have met so many different beings and seen so many different dimensional spaces, like connecting to the fairy realm, the unicorn realm, the dragon realm. You can receive all different types of healings from these different places and spaces. I've been to different planets and different star systems. I've learned about different technology that I've never seen here on Earth. And is that applicable always? Sometimes not. Sometimes it's like a future sneak peek of what we're going to have here, like in this Earth time. Okay, maybe not my lifetime here, but eventually. You can receive different activations from different beings in your Akashic records, like different star seeds, a whole plethora of things. Like everything opens up to you like on this vast scale. Okay, soul contracts and karmic lessons. So we're gonna wrap up and come to a close here in a minute. Okay, so soul contracts are the people, places, challenges, knowledge, and experiences you want to have in this incarnation. Kind of like we talked about before, your highest self is laying out a guide map, a plan for you. Is that set in stone? No. Soul contracts are not permanent things. You can rewrite them, you can change them. They are a guide, okay? You have free will. Just because you decided to go to McDonald's does not mean that you halfway there can be like, oh, I want to go to Burger King. Okay. Right? That's totally fine because you were the keeper of your contract. There have been so many times where I have gone into my records and changed something. I'm like, I do not like this. I do not prefer this. I do not like the direction that I'm headed in. I need to make some edits. Okay. And that is totally fine. Karmic lessons. Two different types of lessons here. Okay. Karmic lessons are, I decided to have this type of relationship with this type of person, whether that's romantic or friends or, whatever, or I decided to learn a different lesson of like forgiveness or, not letting my pride get the best of me or learning how to hold good boundaries. It's like things that you're trying to learn through either, again, lessons or relationships. Sometimes things aren't karmic relationships, though. Sometimes it just is what it is and life happens. Okay. Karmic relationships or lessons are things that you specifically wanted to learn through something. Okay. Sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative. Like, I have been in some relationships that I know are karmic to help me learn how to become a divine sovereign being, even though they sucked while I was in them, or specific karmic lessons of like self-love and remembering who I am through being beat down through trauma and PTSD. Okay. But on the other side of that, it helped me become a super strong, empowered person. And now I help other people. And I had to have some of those things happen in order for me to fulfill my contract of like what I wanted to experience here, right? Or even like some really negative relationships in my life. Like, I wouldn't be the person that I am today without experiencing those things. When you have a karmic rollover lesson, that is when you didn't quite experience it enough, right? Or you didn't fulfill it. Like maybe you chose like, nope, I don't want to do that anymore, right? But your oversoul was like, listen, this is not part of like the bigger plan. We do need to experience this in our life to grow and evolve. And so you end up having to repeat it over again. Okay. Or maybe you choose to repeat it. Maybe I want to experience self-love through a man and then a female in a different one. Or maybe I want to experience an 1800 versions of me, and then a 2000s version of me, and then 3000s version of me. Okay. It's all to help you learn and grow and evolve. When you're experiencing a karmic lesson, sometimes you don't realize it in the moment, but you do later on. There is a point where you get to where you're like, oh yeah, that happened because XYZ. Okay. Also, in saying with the soul contracts, you don't always know where you're going because you're in the mountain. That's why it's really important to have these connections with these higher versions of yourself, higher selves, because sometimes things don't make sense. You're like, I don't understand why I'm here in life. I don't understand why I'm going this direction. Oh, sometimes that's not meant for you to understand, because that takes all the fun out of life and the joy and the whimsy and the surprises, right? Because if you do everything, that'd be like hecka boring. Okay. So understanding how to read your soul contract helps you kind of get to these next chapters, but it also kind of takes the pressure off of you having to figure everything out right this second, because you really trust yourself. You're like, no, I just need to connect to these different next versions of myself and they're going to help me get to the next chapter. I'm just going to keep taking action steps. I'm going to keep creating forward movement, keep on healing, keeping on working on my self-confidence and my self-esteem and my empowerment and all these things, because I'm going to get to where I'm going either way. Like knowing about soul contracts, when you can read them, your dreams and your visions are not just dreams and visions. They're an actual fact. That's the crux of being a timeline reader sometimes, okay? Because you know it's going to happen for you, and that can be kind of overwhelming. You're like, oh my gosh, I see like how much I'm going to achieve in my life. Like, how am I ever going to get there, right? It's not just some type of like imaginative scape. It's like, no, that's solid. That's very real. But there's also like so much pressure that gets taken off because you're not second guessing yourself. Like, yeah, maybe imposter syndrome comes up and everything, but you're like, no, I've got my higher selves. I got my inner children. I got my higher selves. We can hear each other clearly. I just need to get to this next chapter and I can rely on my higher self to get me there. And I'm going to get my inner children there. right? It really is this connectivity of supports. It's building a council within yourself, especially with these different versions, these different, past lives, different timelines. And so you don't feel alone. You're not alone. Even if you did not have anybody else in your life, okay? And I've gone through a period like that where I went through this very intensive dark night of the soul and self-love journey, and I only had myself in my life. And basically it's because I wasn't loving myself, and so I got stripped of everything in my life. But it also made me realize I'm never alone. Like, going on this journey, like, no, I've got all these different versions of myself and all my inner children, and like all these different higher selves. Like, I don't have that pit within myself anymore of that loneliness wound, right? Because I have been able to connect to these different facets of self. Okay, now that we know how everything is connected to one another, we're going to talk about why. What is our why? Why do we want to go on this journey? Okay, because it is very encompassing. It can be very intense. It can be very dark night of the soul and tower moments. So what is the benefit of going through the system, this ladder system? Okay, I want you to ask yourself, and you can close your eyes as well if you want to. Don't do that while you're driving, of course. But if you're listening to this sitting down or laying down, you can close your eyes and listen to me talk. How would it feel to fully trust yourself? To be able to take leaps of faith, jump into the unknown and know that you're going to be caught. Hear your intuition and your guides and your higher self very clearly. Be able to make aligned decisions that are good for you in your life and create a lot of forward movement, help you achieve your dreams. How would it feel to learn how to channel those frequencies that we talked about, like peace and joy and happiness and unconditional love, so that you can make really big shifts in your reality? How would it feel to discover your cosmic history, maybe your starseed lineages, or what planets you're from, or where you've traversed through the cosmos? Use your voice to change the lives of others. Maybe like I'm doing now, like hosting master classes, or showing up for other people in your community, or just being a leader in your own life and being an example and helping us with this collective consciousness shift. How would it feel to express yourself authentically? Wear the things that you want. Stand strong in your truths and your beliefs and your values. Express yourself with laughter. Be a silly, goofy, weirdo alien, and reach higher levels of consciousness and esoteric wisdom. So I want to take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And take a deep breath in through your nose and breath out through your mouth. And what emotion comes up for you? Is it happiness or peace or joy or freedom, expansiveness, creativity, fulfillment? And we're going to take another breath in and take a breath out. Okay. So if we want to understand the whys and how, excuse me, and how all of these things correlate on a deeper level and how to heal and integrate them, this is what I'm going to be teaching in the Quantum Evolution Academy that I have coming up. This is a 12-week program, and we start on February 1st. We're going to be talking about soul contracts and karmic lessons, Akashic records, quantum manifesting, how to heal your inner children, how to balance your chakras, developing your channeling abilities, understanding frequencies and dimensions, timeline reading with past lives, and holding a sacred space for others. So it's one thing to know how all these things are correlated with one another. How do we integrate it? How do we take all these lessons and make changes in our life? When I was learning about all these different topics, it's one thing to like hear esoteric knowledge, but it's like, okay, well, what do I do with it after that? Because a lot of times you'll hear people, well, just meditate. Just meditate and you'll figure it out. Okay, well, I'm a very logical and analytical person, and I like input and output, and I like very tangible exercises. I also love psychology and science. I love having applicable ways to apply these things in my life. Okay. So if you like this masterclass, this is what it's going to be very much like in this program. Okay. I'm going to give you extremely tangible, applicable exercises so that you can understand how to web all of these things together to create these shifts in your life, especially with the inner children. Y'all know, or some of y'all know, that inner children healing is my most favorite thing to talk about, and it is the most fundamental key brick to me for everything, because that's where all of our central nervous system and mindset reprogramming and chakras, everything is interconnected with our inner children. So we're going to be talking about that a lot as well. But coming out of this, I want to help you get to a place where you can say, I can read my Akashic records and heal all my inner children. I'm an Akashic record reader. I am an inner child healer. And then if you want to take that modality and apply it to others, whether it's with family members, friends, or you working with clients, either starting your business or expanding your spiritual business, you will have all the tools and the knowledge to do that for yourself or to teach other people. Okay. So we are going to be meeting every week on Zoom on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST. And so this is a self-paced course. You're going to be able to go all through these lessons in your own time. And then every week when we meet on Zoom, it's going to be a live Q&A, and we're going to talk about the things that we are going through the course with one another. So the investment is $777. And again, we are starting on February 1st. You will also have a private Facebook community. So I'm going to be pouring a ton of resources in there as well that are not just mine, but also other people's that have been really beneficial on my journey and that really helped expand my consciousness. You're going to have lifetime access to this course. You will also, when I update it for the continuing launches, you will also get the updates, because I'm sure there'll be tons of other things in the future that I'm like, oh, they really need to hear this as well. You will have access to that. Okay. You will always be in the course. 6 months, excuse me, of 1 month support. So I know that you're probably thinking, Sage, this is a lot of information to learn in 12 weeks. Okay. This is a lot to integrate and implement. And I understand that. And I know that everybody takes different time to go through things, and you may not get through it in 12 weeks. All the different courses. It's so much information that I'm about to bring to y'all. Okay. Like, it is my life experience and everything that I have learned on my spiritual awakening journey, all the things that I have helped my clients with, all the things that I have healed within myself. It is a lot. It was originally an 8-week program, and we have stretched it out to 12. That is why I want to give you additional support outside of the 12-week program. So we are going to be meeting once a month after the program ends for 6 months, so that you can come to, the live Zooms and ask me questions about integrating or healing. And you will always have access to the Facebook community as well. So as you traverse through your life journey, you got questions, come in the Facebook and ask. Okay. So the next launch is going to be in May 2024. So that'll be the next round. And then the price is increasing to $1,111. So if you want to get in at the foundational price of $777, you can join us for the opening on February 1st. Okay, and I want to say a special thank you to everybody that joined or will be watching in the future. I love talking about these topics. I hope it helped you have a new level of understanding and a good basis point of what do I need to be focusing on? What level can I traverse through to get to the next one? Okay, central nervous system, subconscious mindset reprogramming, chakras, inner child healing. It's just a much easier guide work and framework that works in a layeral system that works. Okay. And it's something that you can always come back to. And also, I would like to say, if you're at different stages in your life, don't feel like you have to start on a certain level. Okay. If you've done such great healing with your central nervous system and subconscious mindset reprogramming, you're ready to jump into inner child healing or quantum manifesting or Akashic records, do that. Okay. Just know it's a cycle back around. Okay. And if you get lost, or you feel like you need extra support or extra guidance, go through this system and say, where is it that I need to focus on? And just repivot and just keep on working back up that ladder system until you make your way down on the bottom again, and keep on going through that cycle. Okay. And hopefully this creates a much clearer path for everybody. Again, I wish that somebody would have told me all these things at the beginning, because it would have saved me so much time. so much energy just researching just so many different topics everywhere, when everything that I researched came back to all of these things. Okay, so I want to save you the tens and thousands of hours I had to go on, and the self-healing and the self-actualization and going through all these different steps, and just make it a lot easier and clearer. Okay, so if y'all have questions, I would love to hear them in the comments here. We'll take a couple minutes. And I'd love to hear also what your biggest takeaway was, whether you're watching this, live, or if you're watching in the future as well. Okay. Is it bad that I actually told both of my children what types of wounds they most likely have so they can address those issues now? They're both in their early 20s. I understand that they have their own journeys. I wouldn't say that that's bad. I think that that is exemplified of you doing a lot of inner work on yourself and realizing what behavioral patterns or triggers that maybe you passed on to them. Like, that's how you're able to recognize it in them is something that you've had to heal within yourself, or maybe that they've picked up. They might have picked up from like various other like school or parents, teachers, guardians that are not you. Okay. So just know that children have a lot of bias when you're their parent. Most kids don't want to listen. Like I do this for a living. My son doesn't want to hear anything that I'm saying about stuff like this. He's like, whatever, right? And I can say something exactly the same as somebody else, and he'll be like, oh wow, that's so amazing. Like, oh, I just had a realization. I'm like, I've been saying that for years. Okay. Now I will say that yes, everybody has their own, contracts and their own journey. So you can't change anybody. Okay. They have to be of their own volition and wanting to heal and wanting to grow and change. And sometimes there's like weird biases with family. And they're like, well, who are you to tell me this? Right? Like, oh, you're the one that dealt with this, and all these different things. I would, if it was me, okay, looking back at my life, I would have rather somebody told me the things and pointed them out so I could have seen them earlier. Right? But again, like, people, when I was in a narcissistic abusive relationship, people were telling me like, hey, you don't need to be in this. Like, this is not good for you. And I didn't want to hear anything that they were saying, but I'm glad that they did. I am so glad that they did. I did not want to hear it at that time. Like, what are you talking about? That's not me. But them saying that to me helped me break out of it faster, because, oh, wait, there's other people that like see this. Like, maybe this is something, like I shouldn't be in, right? If they hadn't have said that, like, how much longer would I kept on that behavioral pattern? So I say, in my personal opinion, yeah, it's probably great to tell them, but you have to look in the mirror at the same time and say, like, am I doing these things? Because the greatest example that can be for them is you being a leader in your own life. So not saying you're not doing them, but just asking yourself, like, am I showing up with my wounds? How I'm pointing it out in them, right? But I know sometimes it's difficult with, your kids, but I would say the thing. I would. For your own peace of mind. So I listen to YouTube subliminals at night. How long after I wake up and turn off those should I wait to use my devices? I would probably wait at least like an hour, like, to get on TikTok or like listening to like, different things, just so you have a moment to really recenter and get in your homeostasis and do like self-care practices. Like, I know not everybody has time and energy to do that, but like, utilize that hour for investing in yourself. Because I do get that, like, listening to people on YouTube, like spiritual mentors and stuff, like, that is investing in yourself. But it's still listening to somebody else's beliefs and truths and values, where you could be going into meditation or doing some type of like meditative activity, like washing your dishes or going on a walk or coloring or whatever that is, and asking yourself instead, right, before outside influences. Because you can resonate with 95% of what somebody's saying, and then 5% you're like, that's not for me. Okay. So it's important to figure out like where those things lie in you first. Okay, so, and investing yourself through journaling, meditating, reading a book, getting on Duolingo like I do in the morning, going on a walk, stretching, doing some yoga, right? Just being with self. And I know that's not an option for everybody. Like, not everybody has an hour, okay? But at least try and not be on social media for like 30 minutes. Okay? At least 30 minutes. Or listening to somebody else. Okay. Oh my gosh, yes, for me, everything started in 2018. Oh, cool. For your big spiritual awakening. Yes, I wanted them to be aware of the wounds I most likely caused. So if they wanted to, they could heal. My children and I have been separated for years. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's something that like you like, I do that with my son all the time. Like, I get kind of like reactionary when I get overstimulated, and he does the same thing. And so I have to be really mindful of not doing that myself, or like, like healing through that. But then I also have to point it out to him, but he don't want to hear it because he's my kid. But but we're like healing together. But I know that he's like that because I was like that with him growing up. Like, I'm much better about it now, but like his formative years, very reactive when I get overstimulated, right? Like just snappy and kind of like irritable, and not being very present, and letting my emotions sometimes like get the best of me. And so like I still need to say something even though I'm still working on it. Like, let's work on it together. But I do understand, like, I caused some of that. And so I also have to look in the mirror and say, like, what do I need to do to heal in this area as well? Okay. Duolingo, it's a language learning app. So I'm currently learning Spanish and Japanese. And so in the morning time I do my Duolingo. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining in today. It was my honor and my pleasure to lead you on this journey, on this path. I'm super excited to see some of y'all in the Quantum Evolution Academy, where we can dive deeper into these topics and these understandings, and we can go on the journey together. I see Tabitha in here. Super excited to see you in the Quantum Evolution Academy. And thank you to everybody watching live. Thank you for choosing yourself. Thank you for looking at your shadows and looking at the trauma and looking at the PTSD and wanting to make a change and believing in yourself that you can. Like, wow. Like, I'm gonna tearing up right now. Okay, how brave are we? We are warriors. We are out here doing the work so we can all have a different collective experience. Even if you're just focusing on yourself, totally fine. Okay, I'm gonna go on a little tangent here. Okay, there are a lot of times where you feel like this cosmic pressure that we need to be doing something with our soul mission or our soul purpose. You're your soul mission or your soul purpose. You focus on you and bringing abundance and prosperity into your life and feeling happy and joyful and magical and whimsical. You're going to be an outpour to other people. That's how we change the collective. Okay, you go through the system and work on these things, you're becoming a leader. You're becoming a collective consciousness shifter. You are remembering you are a healer. You're remembering you're a guide. You're remembering you're a spirit guide. You're a mentor, okay? Just you being a leader in your own life is helping everybody. And so I'm sending you a big hug because I know this journey is not easy. Okay. It gets easier over time. Okay. But even so, life comes with its challenges. So like, I really, really appreciate you spending this 2.5 hours with me today. And then I hope it helps you on your journey. It makes everything a little bit easier and brings a little bit more magic into your life. Okay. Especially with them inner children. I absolutely love the way you break things down and explain everything. Thank you so much. Oh, you're so welcome. I was so worried. I was like, oh, is this going to be enough? Like, this master class is going to explain everything. I'm like, oh, we're at like 2.5 hours. Like, I always do that though. I always like second guess myself because, imposter syndrome goes up for everybody. And then I end up going like way over just like so much information. And so that was what my higher self was telling me when I connected with her earlier. She was like, girl, if you don't just chill out, like this is already a lot. So I'm glad that y'all enjoyed. Okay, I will see you next time, and I'll have the replay up soon. Bye.